What does it mean to be the greatest? For a lot of people, when we try to call something the greatest on a quote-unquote objective level, we're still operating from an incredibly biased point of view. If I were to ask someone, what is the greatest action figure of all time? Their answer would vary, regardless of how quote-unquote objective they try to be. For some people, it's probably something very high-end, like an InArt or Hot Toys 1/6 scale collectible, due to their unparalleled accuracy and uncanny realism. But for others, like 10-year-old spoiled kids on TikTok, it's probably something like the Sentinel, Peter B. Parker Spider-Man, or the Jada Toys Invincible figures that haven't even released yet because of articulation and aura farming. But you know, both of these groups, obnoxious Hot Toys collectors and naive import action figure fans, have a valid reasoning to their parameters of what makes an action figure good. The reasoning? Well, it's in the name. Action figures. You want something that balances aesthetics with posability and fun factor. Sure, there are third-party factors like a connection to a character, a brand, or an IP that make you more inclined to believe something is greater than another. So, what's my answer? What is the greatest action figure of all time? Well, to me, the greatest action figures of all time are undoubtedly Neca's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures inspired by the 1990 film. But my pretentious perspective on art designed to cater to 6-year-olds in the 1990s doesn't end there. I am willing to argue that the 1990 TMNT film is the single greatest comic book adaptation film of all time, with the greatest corresponding action figures of all time. There are about 1 million videos about TMNT online, specifically about the origins of Eastman and Laird's comics along with the development of these movies, and I'd rather spend time talking about things of substance rather than just treading the same points of, did you know that Eastman and Laird were friends but actually they got mad at each other and one of them bought a tank, and also did you know that TMNT was a parody of Daredevil? So I'm just gonna jump straight into the meat. I don't know how in touch with the TMNT side of YouTube you were in the 2010s, but if you existed in the same space that I did, you probably heard the sentiment of, the original Mirage TMNT comics are so dark and gritty and grounded, and they're nothing like the silly 80s show. They're so hardcore, dude. And that's something I still hear a lot today, and I've always just kind of believed it. But recently, I took it upon myself to finally read these comics in a totally cool and legal way, abiding by all international copyright laws. And I gotta say that these comics are in fact not grounded and unsilly like several 40-year-old men on the internet that have never read these comics made me believe. Maybe the characters aren't as distinct as they were in the 80s show, nor is the comic as goofy as the 80s show, but it doesn't make it explicitly adult. Sure, they drink beer, they swear, and they fight with blood, but it's nothing crazy. It's not even like they were necessarily bordering on censorship laws at the time. Sure, they kind of kill Shredder at the beginning of the series, and there is definitely an edge to all the characters, especially in the vibes of the first couple issues, but it's so quick to pivot into ridiculous ninja science fiction, immediately. Within just the first 7 issues of the series, they meet multiple alien races, they go to space, time travel, and are involved with the comically longest car chase scene in all of comics, at least at the time. In all honesty, if you called these Mirage comics edgy adult and so violent and gritty, it's like if you called something like Spawn or even Hellboy hardcore. It's just not accurate. Maturity or lack thereof aside, these Mirage comics are awesome. They're so ridiculous and border on parody at times, which is kind of the point, but they do it in such a charming way. The concept is so unrealistic and ridiculous, but that's kind of what makes it work as a parody or satire. It treats these outrageous concepts as seriously as they can while still being tongue-in-cheek about it. The first issue ends with Leonardo making a goofy one-liner about how Shredder has been shredded, or killed, and then pretty much ends by saying, yeah, we're the Ninja Turtles, and we're here to stay. No matter if you're a kid, teen, or adult, there's something about the innate self-awareness yet respect for the concept and the medium that makes TMNT so captivating, which is something that I think is shown even further as the comic evolved under Eastman and Laird, and they added more and more comic booky, science fiction, ridiculous elements in. And not to immediately jump the gun, but I would argue that this approach of self-awareness yet respect for the medium is also an integral part of what makes the 1990 movie so good. It stays true to the source material while taking certain elements from the wildly successful cartoon and using those two influences to adapt the Turtles to the medium of film. Directed by Steve Barron with screenplay by Todd W. Lengen and Bobby Herbeck, the 1990 TMNT was an adaptation of the first 15-ish issues of the original Mirage Comics Eastman and Laird run. TMNT 1990 takes important story beats from the Mirage Comics and rearranges them to be condensed into an hour-and-a-half movie, while not losing the purpose of those plot beats that they're adapting. For example, instead of Splinter being captured by members of the TCRI and the Turtles spending an issue finding him just to stumble upon an alien race and to be sent to a different planet, Splinter is captured by the Foot in the movie, and the Turtles become emotional, blaming themselves for his abduction and possibly the loss of their father. That sticks with them, and they use it as a motivation to become better and work harder to do the right thing and take down the bad guys. In this way, the 1990 movie recontextualizes elements from the comics to make a more fleshed out, intimate version of the books, with better character dynamics and more impactful messaging. Sure, the 1990 adaptation does not include any of the very sci-fi elements and is much more grounded in the cartoon or the comics, but I think that works in its timelessness. I love a good ridiculous comic book movie once in a while, but considering the fact that this was made on a budget in the 90s, animated or practical aliens or robots would probably age this movie a lot. And also, by making it more grounded, it puts an emphasis on the human characters. And within this groundedness, the Foot Clan and the Shredder seem even scarier because I don't know that there are aliens and robots to worry about in this world. Lastly, keeping a lot of this movie grounded further contributes to the coming-of-age vibes, which is the last thing, second to last thing I want to talk about in this film. This movie is a coming-of-age film. Full stop. It is a film where several young people, shielded from the world, grapple with the fact that their life is changing. Their actions and decisions have more weight now. Their parents are getting older, and most of all, they're being thrown into a new world. One where their perspectives might be challenged, and one where they'll have to accept and embrace new things. And it's easy to dismiss that things are changing and pretend that you'll be a kid forever because you don't want to accept that at some point you'll have to let it go. But you know what's even better than a solid, touching story? Cool designs, baby! Famously, Jim Henson's Creature Workshop designed the suits and animatronics for this film, and they are absolutely gorgeous. They all have unique face shapes. Michelangelo having the most round, youthful face with bigger eyes, while Leonardo, Raphael, and Donatello have wider, more lemon-shaped faces with different, nose shapes? The colors of these turtles are also perfect for this adaptation. They aren't too saturated or too gray, they stand out in the environment and lighting, but they also look natural. And sure, at times it might be a little bit distracting because their shells are also squishy, but don't worry about it. They're perfect to me, okay? Leave me alone. I haven't even gotten to how well the animatronics function either. Obviously, they look at puppets at times because, that's what they are. You can see the actors in the suits sometimes in the mouths or the seam lines of the face, but that doesn't really detract from how immersive these costumes are to me. It just feels as immersive as good CGI characters in a film. But you know what's cooler than a cool design? Toys, baby! Toys! Funnily enough, Playmates never made toys for this first movie, but they did for the second movie, which I'm not talking about the second movie today, but the toys for the movie are pretty cool. In 1992, Playmates released the Movie Stars Turtle toy line. Don't mind the fact that their faces look pretty much nothing like the costumes, nor are their bodies in any way similarly shaped, but as a kid, these looked perfect. But obviously, I never got them because they came out just about 15 to 16 years before I was born, and they didn't re-release them until a few years ago. But recently, I was able to track down a copy of my favorite turtle, Donnie. You might be asking why I got the original copy rather than just buying the new reissues, and the answer to that is all down to texture. The new versions are made of regular plastic, but these old ones are rubbery. And having it in hand now, it's pretty awesome. A nice little novelty item to have after years of wanting this particular toy. Nothing mind-blowing, but it's cute and it's fun. While I might not have grown up with the Playmates Movie Star Turtles, I did get to witness the birth of a new toy line. A line of 1/10 scale turtles, with exquisite detail, a multitude of accessories, and sequel figures on the way. The figures in question, the Neca... Oh right. 5 years before the Neca 90s figures, Playmates released their own take on the iteration of the characters. And as a kid, I remember watching Pixel Dan's Comic-Con panel reveal these figures, and my mind was blown! And then the figures came out, and yeah, even then I was young enough to know that these aren't the movie turtles. They're smooth, their proportions are a bit awkward, there isn't really any detail, and the faces are off. Well, they actually did a pretty decent job in giving each turtle their distinguished face and head shape, but these expressions are really weird choices, leading a lot of collectors to swap around their expressions. Side note, as a kid this bothered me because of the previously mentioned each turtle has a different face shape thing, and switching them around kind of mixed the face shapes up to the character, and it just kind of annoyed me. Anyway, these figures are kind of rough. In fact, it's actually what got me into customizing as an 8-year-old, but that's a story for another day. And they were about to immediately get outclassed because at Toy Fair 2016, Neca revealed a brand new line of 1990 TMNT action figures. One that would stomp these Playmates turtles. Literally. Their quarter scale 1990 TMNT toy line. Running at roughly 16 inches, these turtles near perfectly replicated the costumes created by Jim Henson's Creature Shop 26 years prior. And as a young TMNT fan, these figures were entrancing. It was exactly what I wish the Playmates turtles were. Incredibly accurate with lifelike detail, but I mean, what parent would willingly buy their collector son an $100 16-inch Ninja Turtle? So all I could do was daydream about these toys and replicate them to the best of my ability. But nothing could compare to those quarter-scale NECA figures that I could never have. Until the summer of 2018 when NECA revealed that they would be shrinking down these turtles into 1/10 scale. Flawless 6.5-inch action figures of the 1990 TMNT designs. Literally exactly what I've been hoping for all my life. And then they were in a box set exclusive to SDCC that sold out immediately, so there was no way I as a 12-year-old could secure them. So once again, my dream of owning a perfect set of 90s turtles died. Until the next year, when NECA re-released them each individually as a GameStop exclusive in the US, and I was finally capable of owning these figures. 12-year-old me saved up all the money just for the chance of possibly owning these toys. I finally got my hands on these beautiful turtles.
Yeah. My granny called, she said, Travis, you work too hard, don't worry, you forget about me. I'm falling in and out of cause.
So what makes these figures so great anyway? Is it the detail, the accuracy, the realism, the balance of aesthetic and articulation, or the accessories? Yes, all of them, all of that, all at the same time. I've never seen a set of action figures that has remained so faithful to the term action figures. These turtles literally jumped right off the screen. Their proportions are near perfect, and so are the likenesses and the textures. They went out of their way to make each turtle have some sort of unique body trait. Raphael and Donatello might reuse some body parts, and so do Mikey and Leo, but they all have different shells that contour the body differently. At this point, there are many versions of these figures, but these GameStop releases that I have come with alternate sets of hands, each turtle's respective weapons, slices of pizza, a TCRI canister, and alternate bandanas for each turtle, which I can't seem to find right now. And they've since released accessory packs with just about anything you'd want from this movie, but I don't have those. It's always hard to articulate Ninja Turtles figures because of their inherently difficult design. How are you supposed to get a hard shell to bend? I mean, in theory, the answer is you don't because they shouldn't bend, but most companies add torso articulation anyway, and I definitely prefer this over realistic accuracy. So these figures do have a torso bend, which doesn't do a whole lot, but it's effective enough. Other than the torsos, their articulation is great, with double jointed elbows, knees, a double ball pegged head, the whole shebang. But one thing that kind of fumbled is the wrists. They should come with ideally 2 sets of holding hands, one moving parallel to the body in a roll the dice motion, and the other moving perpendicular for the most ideal weapon posing options. But it's okay, I guess. There are also a couple other nitpicks that I can't help but point out. Funnily enough, my favorite turtle, Donnie, is probably the least accurate of the bunch. His bandana is too pink, and I think they did go a little bit overboard and exaggerated with his overbite, and he could be a little bit more chubby, but honestly, I'm just nitpicking like crazy at this point. All in all, these figures, just like the costumes and movie they're based on, are absolute works of art. It's like a Russian baby doll. The figures adapt the costumes perfectly and make certain adjustments, like the articulation, so they can fit the medium of action figures that they're based in. And the costumes, well, the movie, take things from the comics that work and improve upon them and add its own flair. And so, these figures, along with the movie they are based on, will remain among the greatest in their respective fields, action figures and comic book movie adaptations. I completely understand why NECA has milked the life out of this line, making just about any character imaginable, because not only is the movie awesome, but these figures are awesome too. And best believe I had to round out the collection with the primary cast of this movie, with Splinter, Shredder, Casey, and April. The human figures are definitely not as spot on or lifelike as the turtles because, well, it's real people rather than rubbery costumes, but the likenesses and detail are still fantastic as per NECA's standards. Later this year, they're once again re-releasing the Turtles individually, but this time with some extra goodies from the accessory packs and other releases. The ones I'm most excited about being those smiling heads. For a while though, the future of the line seemed pretty bleak, as they were kind of just making anyone who's anyone and re-releasing the Turtles, just treading the same water. But at Toy Fair earlier this year, they revealed what they are doing to expand the toy line even further with concept figures, translating characters from the cartoons like Bebop and Rocksteady to live action, Jim Henson style. And these look pretty awesome. I'll probably get them, I admit. I had a whole section in this video about NECA's Mirage Turtle line and how cool those figures are and how cool those comics are, but this is going on long enough, so that's a story for another day, I suppose. I know this was a long video and it's a little bit different from my other content, but thank you guys for watching. As always, a like, subscribe, a comment, and a follow on Instagram and TikTok at EachFigures would be much, much appreciated. Along with Toy Story and superheroes, TMNT was probably my first love when it comes to media, and I wanted to make something special for this film's 35th anniversary, especially considering that they are re-releasing this movie in theaters, and I'm actually going to be watching that later today. Even though I love these 1/10 scale figures, I can't help but to think of the quarter scale Donatello as my forbidden love, the one that got away. It's probably one of the single most important figures to me as a kid, and I don't even own it, so I don't know why I'm saying. That's right, I got Big Donnie! Big Donnie alert! Big Donnie alert! Big Donnie! I found it at Burlington for 80 bucks, and this is the greatest investment I've ever made. This toy is the only current source of happiness I have in my life. To go see TMNT 1990 in theaters. Are you excited? Are you excited? Dude, I'm an adult. Oh my god. Just got out of the theater, guys, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if that held up as well as I thought it did when I was 8 years old. But you know, c'est la vie, baby.
If you enjoy this figure and you want to see more, you can click the subscribe button, and if you want to see more videos, click in the description below for my channel. If you want to watch the entire review, this is the review, and bye.